It's when you make business decisions strictly looking at the P&L with no
Hmm.
idea how those metrics got on the P&L. On the other side of a P&L is humans. We're
Right.
social emotional beings, right? There's EQ on the other side. And I think it's the EQ side is what interconnects the journey. No, don't get me wrong. There's logic in journey, but like in the case of what you're talking about, especially in a business, is people map out. It's actually kind of funny. I was talking to someone this morning about it. Is I was like, wait. You know what's funny is everybody expects a result from everybody else, but as soon as it's their like strength, it's like, whoa, slow down. We have to think through this. We got to run this plan. We got to do this. But like they will journey their work to death. But what they
Right.
don't do is they don't take the bigger journey or other people's journey into account. And that's where the
Mm.
fallacy comes in is to some degree, some people they think they're going through the wheel, but they stop at they kind of start from vision. They start the journey and then they go to result
Right.
because they thought through their component or they protected it.
Right.
But as soon as they went to, I mean, you saw this inside one of our meetings where, oh, we got to do all this work. And then it's next thing you know, it's like, where's marketing at? Why aren't it done? Why aren't it done? Where's it at? Where's it at?
Right.
That's another one is it's the EQ, it's the social emotional intelligence of understanding there's not only the journey, but there's the interconnect of the journey. In case of your son, like have you talked to mom and dad about what being a YouTuber looks like and what kind of content they will allow? Like he could have
Right.
mapped out the entire journey of I'm going to do this video and that video. Kind of funny you said that because my son did this when he was 12 several years ago. Is he mapped all this stuff out and it was like, bud, you got to be 13 before you can be on YouTube. Oh,
Oh, yeah. That's you're gonna want to think about that, right? I love the fact that he had a plan, though.
well, in that with that goes back down to it was a great plan, great idea, but too much in a vacuum, which
Right.
ultimately became vision into result.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a very common IQ problem. Is I know everything that needs to be known, so I'm just going to go do this, as opposed to having the humility to say, there's probably something out there I don't know that I don't know. Let me bounce this off a couple of other people on the team and see what I might be missing.
Well, you know, one of my favorite ones is why are we worried about step 8 when we're on step 1? Like you've wasted nothing pisses me off more than anything than wasting time and resources, and
Hmm.
especially times. That's the one thing we can never get back, right? Especially when somebody takes like I love it when people think a few steps ahead, or they can think of the like what is step 10? Like what's the end goal? What's the result we're trying to hit? I love that. We need that.
Good.
But when people worry about step, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, when really step 1 is somebody else and their job is to figure out, step 1 to step 2, it's like you wasted so much time and energy about something that's not even in your sphere of influence that's going to change the moment step 2 gets done.
Right.
So, that's kind of goes back to don't worry about tomorrow's problems. Today's has enough.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people confuse, well, I'm thinking through the journey. No, you're worried about the result at the
Mm.
expense of the journey. And so when you truly understand the journey and you got, okay, the vision, step 10, that's the end destination. What's the measurable? Okay, we got roughly 10 steps and here's the result we're going to achieve because we did an analysis, went backwards, all right, going forward. We know what we're
Right.
going to achieve. Okay, who what's the journey here? Who's got the first step and what can I do? I can't do anything until step 1's done because it's unclear. Then your job is to wait, like go on to the next priority, go on to the next task. Don't try to do somebody else's job. Don't try to over engineer it. And I think that's why
Mhm.
we got into such like an IQ based society is we want to over analyze and over think and we feel like there's value into that. And it's like all you're doing is wasting time, energy, and slowing everything down.
Right.
And it's even worse when managers and leaders do it
Right.
because
It Yeah, it reminds me of watching little kids play soccer, right? Where they all clump together and they're all trying to kick the ball at the same time. Uh, and I've seen so many organizations that they try to work that way. It's like, okay, step one, everybody on step one. And again, there are probably times when it is appropriate to swarm an issue, but most of the time, understanding, okay, who's on the hook for step one? What's that going to take? When's it going to be done? Do you have everything you need? Okay, let me get out of your way. And I'm going to prep for step two and the handoff to me, as opposed to everyone just trying to kick the ball at the same time. And you end up with like six versions of step one. And then nobody knows which ones they're supposed to work off of.
Yep. You get the finance person up in marketing. You get production up. You know what's funny is I think I see more back of house getting into the front of house
Okay.
lately, at least lately. I mean, it's like, the production team is worried about how sales is going to sell it. So then they get in control of it. And I was literally, this is it was yesterday. Production team is building these strategies like, guys, like our CPA or our cost of customer acquisition is like $100,000 because we're spending, days of production time, high caliber production time up in
Right.
the sales audit process just to do an analysis to give guidance and direction.
Oh, gross. That's a terrible waste of money.
Well, but if we don't, do this, then the client's not going. No, that's a journey problem. You're trying to
Yeah,
push a result at the expense of the journey, and because we're trying to do that, we're actually not hitting the result we desire because we've made our costs, our human capital dependency and
sure.
process convoluted.